Today's daf is daf Vav in Bab Mציעא. We're at the two dots, almost halfway down the page. Boy Rav Zera, as we learned for Achinu Kol Beis Yisrael and Sunim Basar V'Shivya. Boy Rav Zera asked this question. Tak ve'echad b'fanenu. Of course, we know we're talking about where we had two people came into court holding on to the talis. One of them grabbed it from the other one in front of us. Now, what's the halacha? One of them grabbed it from the other one. What do you say? So what kind of a question is that? Say Reuben and Shimon are holding on to the talis, and Reuben grabs it away from Shimon. Now he has it in his hand totally. So what's the halacha? The Gemara says, what do you mean? If Shimon didn't say anything, obviously he admits that it doesn't belong to him, that it's really Reuben's. He didn't even complain. And if he cried out and said, "Hey, what are you doing?" What should he have done? He yelled at the guy, "Hey, what are you doing?" What's the question over here? So let's read it. He was initially quiet. First, Shimon didn't say anything when Reuben grabbed it. Then afterwards, he cried out, what do you say? Since he was quiet at the beginning, Oduya Odule, does that mean that he admitted that it was really Reuben's, that Shimon had less of a claim on it? Maybe Shimon actually took it from Reuben initially. In front of Bezdin. That's what I said. Bifanenu. Look at the question again. Boy Rav Zera tak fechad bifanenu, in front of us in court. So here's the question. Shimon didn't say anything initially, and later on he complained. How do you interpret this? Do you say that since he didn't say anything, since he was quiet at the beginning, he's moda, he admits that it doesn't belong to him, that it's Reuben's. Since afterwards he did cry out, hashda, right? Since he cries out, not kim the katzava hasha, now that he's screaming, igloy milsa, it turns out the the reason he was crying initially, I'm sitting here in court, and the rabbi saw him, grabbed him, they walked into court, they were both holding on to it. Reuben grabbed away from Shimon. What was Shimon supposed to do? Should he cry out? Should he cried out right away? And since he didn't, that shows that he admits it. Or does he figure, listen, why should I have to cry out? Didn't they just saw what took place? Maybe that's why I didn't have to say anything. But really, he is complaining. So how do you view this? So the Gemara is going to try to bring a proof, and the Gemara doesn't really have a solid proof, but we're going to go through different cases. Amar Nachman.
I'm upset to say that he was quiet because he admitted it wasn't
right.
his.
Right.
What was he doing there?
What was who doing there?
He admit if the Gemara one of
the because maybe he was the crook. Because maybe he was the crook. Maybe he was the guy who picked it up. He saw Reuben pick it up. He's okay. Because he figured I'll come into Bezdin, we'll both have it, we'll split it. Yeah, he learned the Gemara. So first he says, okay, the guy grabbed it from me. What am I going to say? I really don't have any proof. Maybe that's what he admitted. Okay, yeah, I tried something, it didn't work. Whatever was going through his mind. Amar Nachman, Tashma. But Medvar, when does our Mishnah say that what if they're both holding on to it? You split it with the Shvua. They're both holding on to it. They're both grabbing it. One of them was holding on to it. We have a standard rule. If I have something in my pocket and you want it, you have to bring proof. It's upon the claimant to bring proof. Now, what do we mean by that, Brisa? Our Mishnah says if they're both holding on to it, you split it. But if one's holding on to it, then what's the case? Is it very simple that way? That Reuben has a talis in his hand, and Shimon says, "Hey, it's mine." You got proof? You got no proof? You got a receipt? You got something? No, obviously, Shita. Obviously, I don't need to tell me that. That a big chiddush. That if I have a wallet in my pocket and somebody says, "Hey, the wallet's mine," you have any proof? Of course, Ella must be our case. This case, Reuben grabbed it from Shimon in front of us, and what? Initially, again, if Shimon screamed right away, hey, so he screamed right away. That doesn't mean anything. You can't grab it in front of Bezdin. And he said, "What are you doing? What are you doing there?" If he didn't say anything right away, but maybe if he didn't say anything at all, then he admitted it. He didn't say anything initially, but later on he complained. Do we say that the reason he didn't say anything initially is because Bezdin saw it? Or do you say that maybe he changed his mind later on? He just started to wake up and say, now he's waking up, all right? And then now that he turns out, do you say that the reason was quiet was because he was a runner? Or don't you say that? You say, no, he changed his mind. His initial admission is good enough. Must be this case. That's not the case. In this price, the case may be this, a different case. We can't prove it, but maybe the case is this case. You go. Also, we come on the case with the vial. Two guys came to us, like the case in the Mishnah, Reuben Shimon holding on to the talis. We told them, Zil Plugu, what's the deal? What's the deal with Shnai Machzor B'Talis? You have to split it, right? Like we said. Nobody has more proof than the other. So Zil Plugu, V'nafku, they went out. They said, okay, good, that's the psak din. Now go out and split it, and that's the verdict. They both went out. The nafku, they went out. The hadar also, they came back in. When they came back in, Reuben had it all in his hand. That's the case, right? So hi Amar Odi, the one what Reuben who's holding it now says he was motive that it was mine. There was a psak, then we split it, but he was motive as mine. Hi Amar, and Shimon says no, Badami Agartinile. I agreed to give it to him if he pays me for it. I agreed to give him. Nobody wants a half a talus. You look like there's just a little prayer shawl on your neck here. They wanted the whole talus. So he says, "I'll tell you what. You could have the talus if you pay me for my half." So again, Reuben, they Bezin sent them out to split it. They come back and Reuben's holding on to it. Reuben says he admitted that it's mine. Shimon says, "No. He agreed to buy my half." What does the Brisa say? If one guy's holding on to it. One guy's holding on to it. What do we say? I understand you. Till now, before you came in holding it, each of you accused the other of being a goslin. You considered Reuben to be a goslin, right? He stole your talus. He's holding on to it. And now you sold it to him without any witnesses. In other words, you went out of court. He didn't give you the money, right? He didn't give you the money. He just you just said that he agreed to pay you for it. Now you're looking for the money. How would you do that without any witnesses? We don't believe him. So it's this is a different kind of a weird case. Or you could say, really, one of them was holding on to it. Say very simple. The Mishnah said, the Bryce say, when is that all? You split it when they're both holding on to it. But if one guy's holding on to it, there's only one guy was holding on to it. So what isn't a double pasha? The other guy was grabbing onto the bottom. In other words, one guy was holding it, and the other guy was like sort of pulling it at the edge, grabbing it. Even according to the famous case where the shore shnagach hasapara, and you find the baby, and you don't know did the shore kill the baby or did the baby die before, and it's either one or the other. Still, Simcha says that's when it's really a suffix, and it's an equal suffix. Go either way, you can't prove it. But over here, even Simcha is motive the sirchalaf klomi. Just grabbing onto it doesn't mean anything. And it's the chiddush there is simple. One guy's holding onto the talus, the other guy's grabbing onto the edge. That doesn't count. That's not considered all to it. So we have this question that's raised by Rav Zera. If in the court, two guys come in holding the talus, one guy grabs it from the other, and the other guy initially doesn't say anything, and later on he complains. How do we look at it? Do we say he admitted initially, and now he's changing his tune? Or do you say that the reason he didn't say anything initially because he figured the best and saw it, and now he's waking up? So the Gemara is really not poshet the shaila per se, but we'll see different views. Now, if you say that when this guy grabbed it, we do take it away. Again, in the case we said, Reuben and Shimon came into court, and in front of us, Reuben grabbed it away from Shimon. Shimon didn't say anything initially, but later on he complained. If you say that in a case like that, we say Shimon's case is a good case. The reason he didn't say anything initially is because he figured it was in front of Bez and they saw what was going on. And we would take it away now from Reuben. Reuben couldn't keep the whole thing. What about Hikdisha Eina Mekudeshes, right? So then if he was Makdish, it's certainly not Hikdisha. In other words, if Reuben and Shimon are holding on to the towels and Reuben grabs it away, and Shimon doesn't say anything initially, but later on he complains. And if the psak would be that we take it away from Reuben, you can't keep it. Obviously, if Reuben was Makdish it during the few moments that he had the whole thing in his hand, it's not Mekudeshes because it's not his. Half is, but it can't be makdish the whole talus. Obviously, right? It can't be makdish the whole talus. So we're saying when Reuben grabbed the whole thing, if the rule would be that we do take it away from him, because Shimon said, listen, the reason I didn't say anything is because right in front of court, you saw what was going on. So if he was makdish the whole thing, he couldn't be makdish the whole thing, but right, he couldn't be makdish it. And the point is that right, then certainly his hegdish is not hegdish. That's very clear. But let's say the rule is, notice some Rambam Seichen, let's see, Rambam Paskins here, it's in Hilchos Torah V'nit and Tes Yud, he Paskins that you don't take it away from Reuben. Since Shimon didn't say anything initially, kept his mouth shut, too bad, we don't take it away. Okay, but Gemara's not really poshed it, but it just says, so if the rule would be that if Reuben would grab it away, listen carefully, if Reuben grabbed it away, we wouldn't take it away from him, we let him keep it. Now, if he would grab it away and we let him keep it, he could be makdish it. But what about if he's makdish it without grabbing it away? If that would be the rule, what would you say? Imtim salom then a mosin of we didn't take it away from we let Reuben keep it. Hikdisha below takma. What happens if he's makdish it? In other words, he didn't grab it away and he's makdish it anyway. While they're both holding it, right? They're both holding it. Well, okay. Let's say though, if he were to grab it, you wouldn't take it away from him. What would you say about kedusha? What would you say? Hikdisha below takma. Since you say that giving something to Hegdish just by your words, that's like handing it over. Hegdish, you just have to say, I'm Akdishis. You don't have to do anything Kinyan. So here also you could say, okay, I didn't have to grab it. If I were to grab it, I would keep it. If I were to grab it and you would keep your mouth shut initially, I would keep. Could I just say it's also Hegdish? Command to tuck for dummy. So therefore, it's as if I grabbed it, because when it comes to Hegdish, when it comes to me acquiring it for myself, I have to actually take it. But if it comes to Hegdish, I only have to say I'm giving it to Hegdish. Is that good enough? Oh, Dilma, no. Hashtami Olotafa, he didn't grab it. Because in the pasuk says when it comes to Hegdish, Ish Kiyakish as Beisokash, a person's Makdish's house, Ma Beisa B'Shuso, Afkal B'Shuso, it's got to be in your possession. Not only does it have to be yours, but it's got to be your possession. It's not in your shus. How can you match something which is not yours? Even if you were to take it, they wouldn't take it away from you. If they would, he wouldn't take it away from you. But the fact is, it's not in your shus right now. So do you say, and it's the law mitakva? In other words, if you in the first case, if you say it away, it's like takva. Certainly, I'm guessing law mitakva. In other words, in the first case, we said that if you were to say that we take it away from you, so certainly you can't be makdish. If you were to take it, we would take it away from you. So certainly you can't be makdish. Below tekva and just low limitation mitakva. But over here, if you were to say that we wouldn't take it away from you, what happens if you were makdish without takva? Maybe hektish is strong enough without grabbing it because Amir Russell walk or do you say no? The fact is it's not in your rishus, so you can't be makdish it. That's the question that's raised now. Yeah.
What's his claim to ownership? That he's makdish the whole thing.
His claim to ownership is very simple. That it was always his, and Shimon grabbed it away from him before they got to court.
They're both standing there holding.
Right. They're both standing there holding it.
So and he's makdish.
What's the hell?
We're here invested.
Right. That's right. But since you say that if he were to grab it away, he could keep it, we wouldn't take it away from him. We're in Poshet that Shiloh.
It becomes a month
Yeah. Okay. So.
It's not.
Yeah. That we wouldn't take it away from him because we would assume that the fact that the other guy was quiet initially is an admission that it doesn't belong to him. That's what gives him the right. So that's how we pass. That's what the Ram Paskin say. If you say, and that's what the case would be. If he screams right away, so he's protesting, you can't grab it in front of court. But if he doesn't say anything right away, that's an admission. And if he were to do that, if Reuven would do that, he didn't do it yet. But if he were to do that, we wouldn't take it away from Reuven. So what would you say if he's makdish it? Do you say I'm a Russell ahead your dummy? Well, all I have to do is be makdish it. That's it. I don't have to actually take it. Or do you say, yeah, you can only makdish it though. I'm a Russell ahead. It works once it's in your rishus, but over here it's not in your rishus, and that's presumably afkol b'shuso. So apparently it wouldn't work. But that's the question that's raised now. Would it be makdish it or not? Toshmas, we're going to try to bring a proof. There was a story with a bathhouse. Now, a bathhouse could be a bathhouse. It could also be just a big tub that's movable. But we'll see that we're showing a bathhouse here. And once a tray, two people were fighting over the ownership of this bathhouse. Nobody had any proof, of course, but each one claimed it was his. One of them got up. He was makdish. He says, you know what? I claim it's mine, and I'm going to makdish it so nobody could use it. Right? All the rabbis did not go to this bathhouse because they were concerned that maybe he was the real owner. We don't know who the owner was. As we'll see later on, it's really a bathhouse, it's karka. So nobody could claim it's his more karka is not stolen the way we hold karka and in Exelis, not like we had one sheet that says it is, that we hold karka is not stolen. So maybe it belonged to him. Amalei Rav one of these rabbis who abstained from using the mikveh, the bathhouse, whatever, said to Rabbah, go up to Rav Chisda in that town of Kafri, I guess that Babylonian town. Ask him this question. Ask him, what do we do in a case like this? One person, there was a fight over ownership, right? And one guy got up and was makdish it. Do we assume it's kaddish or not? Do we assume it's hektish and we can't use it or not? It belongs to the base of mikdash now. So now what happened was Rabbah had been commissioned by Rav Oshia to go ask this question of Chisda. On his way, he stopped in Surah, in another Babylonian town. Amalei Rav Hamnuna from Surah said to Rabbah, what's your question? Masnisi, it's a Mishnah. Now listen carefully to this Mishnah. Suffolk Bechoros, a suffix of a Bechor. What does that mean? You're not sure if this is a firstborn or not. How can you not be sure? You're not sure if the mother of the animal or the human being had a baby previously, right? Sometimes that's the suffix, right? A Bechor is a firstborn male. Let's say the woman miscarried before, or the animal miscarried before. You're not sure. Then the second one's not a Bechor, right? We don't know. It depends. Depends what stage of the pregnancy it was, etc., etc. So we have a suffix over here. An animal is born, whether it's a human being or a Bechor Behema. Now, here we're talking about for pidyon of a Bechor, a pidyon of Bechor of Adam, we're talking about the firstborn of the mother, of course, not the father. We're not talking about a Bechor lenachla, for nachla, that goes according to the father. But here we're talking about Bechor for a mother. Or Behema, not for a Bechor Behema. Bechor Behema, what do you do with a Bechor Behema? Short kesef, give it to the Kohen. Okay, you have a suffix here. Whether it's a tar like a kesef set or a kesef set or a goat kesef ace or shore or a para rather or bang tmeim. What's a tame animal that you have to give bechor? Petarechem called petarechem tiptibaseh. We say it every morning. Petarechem tiptibaseh. The firstborn of a chamor, which is a non-kosher animal, you have to be poted with a lamb and give that to the Kohen. Now, the lamb is not kadosh or anything like that. The Kohen could give it to you to eat, etc., etc. It's not a carbon, but that's the rule. You have to be poted. You have to be poted. Now, they have this every once in a while. They have a big ceremony in Muncie or someplace where they have a petarachim and they dress up the lamb and make it a little kiddush, chon, and stuff like that, right? So they do that sometimes, right? But it's a rare thing. You have a firstborn. You have to, a Jewish guy owned a chamor, and the chamor had a baby, and it was a petarachim, and you pot it with a set. Now, let's say all these cases of stuff, you don't know if it's firstborn or not. What do? Okay, now what do you have? You have an owner. Yankel is the owner of the farm, and you have a Kohen, right? The Kohen comes and says, hey, I think it's a Bechor, I'm entitled to it. And he grabs it. He said, no, Mosim Chavel Varaya. You can't say, how do you know it's a Bechor? Maybe it's not a Bechor, and you're not entitled to anything, right? You're not entitled, whether it's a Bechor Adam, where you're talking about, or for the 5 shekels that you're going to put, or a Bechor Behema, Kesef Shorez, which is a Kadosh and goes to the Kohen, or Petarechem, which also you have to be part to give the set to the Kohen. So in all these cases, it must have. Now the Gemara is assuming in the Havamina, listen carefully. A Motzim Chavel Varai means whoever's holding on to it, he has the upper hand. The other guys to pull away. Meaning, if the owner Yankel is holding on to it, the Kohen, he has to bring proof. If you bring proof that this is a firstborn, let's say the Kohen grabbed it. We're assuming now in the Havamina. If the Kohen grabbed it and he says, I think this is a Bechor. Or I think this says that it's the petarech is the pidyon for the petarech chamor. So we're assuming now in the Havmina that if the Kohen grabbed it, again he grabbed it when grabbed it away. Yankel is to bring proof that it's not a bechor. That's what we're assuming right now. Amotzim chavel varaya. But Tani alone, we learned about that. Asur begiz of avoda. These animals. Right, these animals, you can't work with them. Right, you can't do anything with the animal if it's possibly kaddish, possibly hektish. If it's a bechor, behema, let's say, or even peter chamor, if you weren't poted yet, you can't use it. You use the animal. So megiz of avoda. So it's a suffix. Listen carefully. The Amar tak for coin ein motzin nasmiyado. We're assuming now. This is a big sugi. Remember in yeshiva, tuck for coin. Right. We're assuming now that if the Kohen grabbed it, he could keep it. That's what we're assuming now, because it says over there, so we're assuming whoever's holding on to it. If the farmer has it, the Kohen has to bring proof. If the Kohen grabbed it, the Yankel has to bring proof. The Amar Tak, we're assuming now, you don't take it away from him. Right? This is the Chilo Takfu, and if he didn't grab it, still assume the Giz of Avoda. This is our question. Isn't this our question? We ask the question, if upon grabbing away the talus, right? If upon grabbing away the talus, Reuben from Shimon, we wouldn't take it away from Reuven. What happens if Reuben was makdish it? So over here also, if the Kohen grabbed it, we wouldn't take it away because it says Motzim Chavel Varaya. And still, if he didn't grab it away, you can't do work with it. doesn't this poshet the shala? Now we're trying to be poshet the shala with the bathhouse, right? With the bathhouse, right? So that was a question. He's asking about the bathhouse. Somebody was makdash it. What do you say? So he wanted to bring a proof from over here that, well, if he's makdash it, since you couldn't take it away from either one, whoever grabbed it, because Motz Mechavel Haraya. If he's got it, he's got it. Whoever's stronger takes it. And if he's makdash it, so even if he didn't take it yet, two guys are fighting over it. But if one guy would grab it away, you couldn't take it away from him. Motz Mechavel Haraya, still it's Kaddish. Says the Gemara, Amarle Rabba. So Rabba turned to Rav Hamnuna. Remember, this was on his stop on the way to Rav Chisda. He stopped in Surah, and Rav Hamnuna gave him this proof. Amarle Rabba, Kedushas Bechor. You're telling me about a Bechor? First of all, I'm going to tell you that if the Kohen grabbed it away from him, you would take it away from the Kohen. Motzim Mechavel Varaya is only on the farmer. The farmer, he gave, his animals gave birth. The Kohen can't take it away from you. You can't say, well, if the Kohen grabbed it from now, the Yankel's birth. I would say talk to a Kohen. But pardon? But what?
What right does the Kohen?
Okay, so if the Yisrael would say, if he would come to him and ask him nicely, can I have it? He says, no, I'm giving it to Irving. I'm giving it to another Kohen. I'm giving it to this Kohen. But if the Kohen grabbed it, it's his, assumedly. But now we're saying no. If it's a real Bechor and a Kohen grabbed it, he can claim it's mine. It belongs to the Kohanim. I took it on behalf of the Kohanim. But over here, it's a suffix if it's a Bechor, right? Because maybe it's not the firstborn. That's our whole question over here. We're talking about a suffix Bechor. Okay, so Rob answered him, this is not the same as your question. Your question was when you had something of that was chulin, that was secular, right? It was profane. Now we're not even talking about the talis. Forget about the talis. We're dealing with the bathhouses, right? And somebody was makdash it. I will tell you in this case of the tukva coin by the suffix, you would take it away from him. He's Motz Mechbero. And still it's also begiz of avoda, because this is the question over here of Bechor or not, is a kadosh, is a suffix that predates ownership. As soon as the animal's born, it's a Bechor. It has the kedusha, even if it's a chamor. It's kedusha. That's a different question. This has nothing to do with who's the owner, if you grab it away or not grab it away. I will tell you over here that the truth is that the Kohen cannot grab it away. Like the first side of the talis. If you take it away from him, you can't be makdash. And still it's kaddish here because it's kaddish merechem. Shani, right? It's different if kedusha comes by itself. It's not like somebody's being makdash the bathhouse or somebody's makdash the talis. Here it's a kaddish by itself, so you can't bring any proof from there. Amalei Rav Chananya l'Rabba. Now Rav Chananya, who was one of the other rabbis over there, Rav Oshia, remember, told Rabbah to go ask a kash for Rav Chisda. Rabbah came to Surah, and Rav Hamnuna tried to bring him the proof from Takfo Kohen. And he says, that's no proof at all, because there it's Kadosh, because it's Kadosh Merechem. That's the suffix of it. It has nothing to do with who's the owner. So now Rav Chananya was one of the other rabbis who abstained from using the mikveh, or the bathhouse. Some of the Rav Chananya l'Rabbah, Tanir Masayloch, I have a proof of Brisa, which is a proof to what you say. What did you say? That by suffix Bechoros, if the Kohen grabbed it away, you take it away from him. He has no rights in it. He has no rights. What's the price that I'm going to make a proof? Listen to this case. Hasfekos nechnasen ledir liasaser. Now let's be very clear about something. Rashi points it out several times where you see it in the Gemara and Amanal. Let's say you have a Kohen who received 10 Petrachamor, 10 lambs for 10 different Petrachamors. Either he, right? So he has to take Meiser. He has to be Mafresh Meiser because the lamb doesn't have kedusha like a bechor of a lamb. The Petrachem of the Chamor that you're quoted the says Chulin, and if he has 10 of them, you got to take Meiser from them. Let's say you have a suffix. If this is a bechor or a suffix. A sfekas doesn't deal with saser. This sfekas we're talking about over here, we're talking about a suffix pidyon petachamor, right? So what do you do with that? Again, I'm the owner, I'm Yankel, the farmer. I have here a petarechem. I'm not sure if this is the firstborn of this chamor or not. I have a whole herd of chamors, of donkeys, a lot of female donkeys over here, asses, whatever you call them, right? So you have a whole herd of them. And I have many that I'm not sure if they're the firstborn or not. Let's say I have 10 of them. Okay, so what do? I'm not allowed to use it You got to destroy the animal, right? So what do? I'm poted for a set. I take 10 lambs and I redeem the 10 petach for this. What do I do with these 10 lambs? I can keep them. They have no kedusha. I just have to redeem them. Cohen can't take it away from me because I'm not sure if he's a balabayas over here, if it's a real more. Okay. Now, what do you do with them? Listen carefully. These sfekas, right? We're not sure, right? What do you mean sfekas? There's sefak of petarechem. You're mafresh to take away these and he can keep them. Shay, you don't have to give it to the Kohen. Rashi says, I'm reading Rashi right where the lines begin to get wide. Barasurio, the Kohen. Let's say the Kohen had 10 of these. He also has to take a meister, and he can keep them. Shalo. In other words, if a Yisrael farmer has a bunch of these lambs that he was pota for Suffolk Peter. Remember, if it's a Vade Peter Chamor that he has in his flock, he knows this is the firstborn, this is Lucy, the donkey, and this is her first baby, and it's a male, right? That's Peter Chamor. He has to give it pota for a set and give the set to the Kohen. But over here, we're not sure if it's the first one. So he's pota for the set, and he keeps. Now, what does he do with that set? It's chulin. He puts it in the rest of his flock. He has another flock. These are his donkeys. Those are his lambs. And he puts all the lambs together, and he counts them out. And every 10th one he gives for meiser. Okay, that's what means. Wait a minute. If you say the other way, remember we're saying now that Rav Chananya tells Rabbi, I got a proof that you're right. That tuck for coin, you can't keep it. If you say that the coin would grab it, you wouldn't take it away. That means that this set is possibly whose? Possibly your coins. And if it's the coins, how can you be Yotze Yerchi of Meiser? You have to give Meiser on your 10 animals, right? What happens if you put this animal into the barn and you pull it, you're right, with all your other animals, and it happens to be that's the 10th one that comes out. So you're giving Meiser from an animal which might not belong to you. That you don't take it away from him. Notice the coin has some rights in this animal, the suffix, now, why can you put these spakas, these Suffolk Petach these says, which are Suffolk Petach Hamor, or which were redeemed for Petach Hamor, how can you put them there? Comes out that you're relieving your obligation for giving Meiser with somebody else's money, with the coin's money. It must be that the coin has no rights in this. If the coin were to come and grab it, no, these belong to Yankel. As long as there's no proof that it's really a Peter Rechem, they belong to Yankel. That's a proof that the coin has no rights in. Amalei Abaye. So Abaye said that's not necessarily a proof. You can't prove it. You know why? You can't prove it. Lamar. Mar is his Rebbe Rabba. Remember, Abaye and Rabba were both talking of Rabba. We're talking about here. Rabba was the messenger who first went to Rav Amnuna in Surah, and then he answered Rav Amnuna, and then Rav Chananya told him, we have a proof to what you're saying. You're right that it's different over here. The Tuck coin, we would take it away from the coin, because if you wouldn't take it away from the coin, how could you be Yotze, possibly Meiser, with Mammon of the coin? Abai says that's not a proof. It means you can't bring a proof to Rebbe, to you, Rebbe, Rabba, my Rebbe. You can't bring a proof to you. Why? Maybe the farmer has only 9 other lambs. Listen, he only has 9 other lambs. Who? And this one, and this 10th one, which is a suffix Petach Hamor, may belong to the coin, maybe not belong to the coin, right? The Manavshach, Ibar Chiyuvu, Shaper Kamaiser. If what? That he's Chayav. Why? Because it doesn't belong to the coin. Klape Shmaya Galia, right? God knows that it's not a Bechor, and therefore it's not Petah Rechem, and therefore this lamb really belongs to Yankel. So he's giving the Meiser. He's got 10 animals. If really Klape Shmaya, God knows that it belongs to the Kohen because it's a Petah Rechem, then he's only got 9. Tishala Bar Suri. You only have 9 animals. You don't give Meiser. So Manav Shach is okay. That's what, so, and therefore the fact that we say that you can use it for Meiser Behema is not a proof that it's definitely not the Kohen's, that the Kohen has no share here. That's definitely a proof, because maybe speak where you only had 9 other animals. So Manav Shach, if this animal belongs to you, you're giving Meiser. If it doesn't belong to you, you're not chayvin Meiser. Then Abai said, forget what I said. Love this when the rabbi said, I made a mistake. Forget about what I said. What I said before is wrong. This fake If it's a suffix, listen carefully. If it's a suffix, you don't give Meiser. If this is a suffix, if I'm chayiv meiser or not, listen carefully. If it's a suffix, it doesn't get, you don't go into the deal. In other words, if I have 1,000 animals here, all lambs, and I have to take every 10th one, but if one of them is a suffix, if it's chayiv and meiser, I don't give any of them. I don't give any of them. We'll see what. And therefore, yes, Sveikus, when the Brisa said in the middle of the page, just Sveikus Nachlas Madir, that's suffix if it's Peter Chamor or not. And we're saying they belong to Yankel, the owner, the farmer, and they go into the thing because the coin has no share in it at all. Abai is confirming what Rav Chananya said to Rabbah. Yes, he has no share in it at all. Why? If there would be a suffix that he possibly has a share in it, and therefore not chayiv, then you wouldn't give meiser at all. Ditznan, listen to this. Let's say you're counting out, you got a lot of animals over here, and you got a farmhand or whatever, you're counting out, nice Jewish boy, and he's counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, till the 10th one. The 10th one you give meiser. Number 5, or let's say number 5, after he went out already, ran back in. Now what do you do? That's it. It's over. Game over. Why? You don't have to give meiser on any of them. Why? Because the ones that went out already, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe you're up to 6, 7, they're yotze because once they go out, they go out. Even you don't worry about what it's called the minyan aroi, patras them. The other ones that went in, you don't know what's going to happen, right? Let's say you went in and you got mixed up with 1,000 other animals. Now the odds are, when 1,000 other animals, when you start counting out, most of them are going to be okay, right? Still, we don't say kulam peturim. Why? If it's a suffix, you should give meiser. Give meiser anyway. If the odds are correct, out of 1,000 animals, every time you count a 10th one, what are the odds that one that jumped back in is going to be that one out of 1,000? The odds are it's not. So if it's not, the other ones in that group of 10. In other words, let's say that we'll call him number 5, Charles, right? That number 5, that animal is likely not going to come out for a long time, right? So all the other times that you counted 10 and those were all good ones, those are good. And if it happens to be Charles, if you happen to be Charles, if number 10 happens to be Charles down the line without us knowing, because we can't, if you can identify it, then there's no problem. You can't identify it, right? So if it happens to be Charles, the other ones are patrim anyway, because we counted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's called minyan aroi. When number 1 went out, number 2, number 3, they were all fit because there were other animals in there. You're also put the Amar of Many Potter. So therefore, if this would be a suffix, really, meaning suffix of ownership, suffix if it's yours or not. We know that it's a suffix of a peter rechem, right? Of a peter chamor. We know we're talking about a case of suffix peter rechem. What do you do? So we said the farmer mafresh the lamb and he keeps it. The Kohen has no rights. Motzim mechavel varaya. He has no rights at all. And if he would have a right, you wouldn't take meiser on these things. You wouldn't take meiser because they're all sveikus. Even a suffix like this, where number 5 Charles ran out and back in, patras the whole thing. So over here also, if it's a suffix, if it's yours or not, if it's of Yankels or the Kohen's, you wouldn't take meiser. Ela meiser l'chamemer. What must you say at the top of Zion? Asiri vade amar rachmana. The answer is the pasuk says the 10th one is a vade 10th one. If it's a suffix, you don't give. And therefore, it is a proof that takfu coin motzina samiyado. If the coin would grab it away, this suffix, you would take it away from him. Yes, in the case where it's a bechor behema, a bein tahor and bein tameim, because it might really be kadosh. If you have a bechor of a behema, let's say a short kesev raised, you're not sure if it's a bechor or not. You have to be suffix. Maybe it is or not. Maybe what do you do with it, right? The coin can't necessarily take it because you're not sure if it's a bechor or not. So it's also begiz of avoda. So what do? You can't work with it. Maybe sell it to the coin for a cheap price. Maybe he'll give you something for it. You can work that out. But it doesn't belong to him, and you would take it away from him. Therefore, my sveikus. So now the Gemara says if you wouldn't, it's funny because he says sveikus. I just explained what the sveikus is. Suffix peter chamor. Now he asks, what are the sveikus? What are we talking about? If it's a suffix of a bechor, of a real bechor, like a short case, a very suffix of bechor, so what are we talking about? Sveikus nechnasim l'dio l'saser. If you have a bechor doesn't go in to the meiser group. Meiser is only on chulin animals, right? It's going to be kodesh, v'lo shekvar kodesh. Ela suffix pedim peter chamor, like we explained. You have a chamor in your stock. and it gave birth. Now, and you're not sure, is this the firstborn of this she donkey or not? So let's say, again, like I said, you have a whole herd, Yisrael. We call him Yisrael. Yeah, why do you call him Yankel? Yisrael. He has a whole herd of animals, of donkeys, and they gave birth. And he's not sure he's got 10 Suffolk Petach Hamors. What does he do? You give 10 lambs for those 10. And because they're chulin, right? The coin, it's not a carbon that the coin has to. It's not like a bechor short kasaves that if it doesn't have a mum, the coin actually takes it as a carbon. No, you're probably to the set. You give the set to the coin, and that's it. That's why they could do it in Muncie, right? They give the lamb to the coin, and that's it. He keeps it, right? Gives a kiddush out of it. Asrin, and you give ma'aser ein shelo. So that's the deal. That's what we're talking about. My haviyullah. So what's the deal with the masusa? We're going back to the bathhouse. Right, we raised the question, a bathhouse that two people were fighting over. Each one says it's his. One guy got up and said, I mocked the shit, so what do? What's the deal? Toshma, Dam Rav Chia Barava, Habayuv the Bay Rav Chisda. There was a story happened to Rav Chisda, by Rav Chisda. Remember, they were going to ask the child to Rav Chisda. And so Rav Chisda brought the question to Rav Huna, took it to Rav Huna, Upashta, and he decided, Mehadam Rav Nachman. Nachman said, Kol moment she'ain yachol lotzia b'tayonin. If you cannot win this case in court, if you would go to court, you wouldn't be able to get it. You can't be makdish. And therefore, in this fight with the bathhouse, since if you would go to court, nobody has one proof more than the other, you can't be makdish. It doesn't work. Okay, so that's the psak as far as the bathhouse. But if you could prove it in court, you could be makdish even though you haven't done it yet. Let's say you have proof. One of the guys fighting about the bathhouse says, I do have proof. I have a document back in Yehupitzville over there. I have it somewhere, and he could prove it. Because therefore, if he could prove it, he could be makdish it right now. I forgot, even though he hasn't yet actually proven it in court. How could he do that? Yeah, but he can't prove. Could he be makdish it now? He doesn't. Can he be makdish it now? No. So if you can win in court, okay. So the question is. So if you can win in court, you can be makdish, right? Even though you haven't won it in court yet. They both have claims to the bathhouse. One guy has proof, but it's not here. He could win in court. Can he be makdish it now? In other words, if he can't win in court, he can't be makdish it. If he can win in court, he can be makdish it, says the Gemara, even though he hasn't actually taken it in court. Rabbi Yochanan said, let's say you stole something from an owner. And there was Yish and Shini Rishus. We learned before that if Shini Maisa, you're Konet, the Goslin, he has to, of course, it's Heshav Gazal, but he owns it if there was either with Shina Maisa or with Yish and Shina Rishus. So let's say he stole it and the owner was not Miyayish yet. Right? Neither could be Makdish. It's Zelafin Shen Shalo. The Goslin, because it's not his yet, there was no Yish. The Zelafin and Rishuso has to be in your Rishus. Has to be in your Rishus to be Makdish. Something has to be in your Rishus, even if you have ownership. In this case, a Goslin stole it from you. You haven't been Miyayish yet. Who owns it? You own it, right? You can't be Makdish because it has to be in Rishus. That's what we learned from the pasuk. As we said before, each Kiyakdish is basic Kodesh. Ma basic Rishuso. Of course, it has to be in your possession, even though. Talking about a fixed structure. It's karka. If you're capable of it, it's yours. In other words, it's not a question. It's not in your rishus. It's not a movable thing that you could say it's in my rishus. It's your rishus. It's fixed property. Fixed property is never stolen. So as long as I could prove that it's mine, it's in my rishus. So therefore, if I could prove that it was mine, it could be makdish. But in this case that we're talking about here, where neither could prove that it was his, you can't be makdish. What about the shaila that we started with? That what if you say that if Reuben would grab it from Shimon, you wouldn't be able to take it away? Why? Because since Shimon is initially quiet, he's admitting that it's not his. What about right? If Reuben didn't take it away, could it be makdish? Do you say I'm wrestling or do you say no? It's got to be Yerushus. The Gemara's not really poshut that shaila. The Rambam seems to say that that's taka da halacha, that if Reuben grabs it from Shimon in front of us and Shimon doesn't say anything and only later on he cries, let Reuben keep it because he should have said something initially. Should have said something. Astit by daf mishrayin, right? If it hurts, you got to scream. He didn't scream. However, could he be makdish it? It's not really in his rishut, right? is it considered in his? We're talking about if he would grab it away. If Reuben would grab it away, we wouldn't take it away from him. So then, okay, then he could be makdish it. But if he was makdish it without taking it away yet, since if he would take it away from him, you would. If he would grab it away, we wouldn't take it away from him. Does that mean that if he was makdish it, even without taking it away from you, could be makdish it? The chora not, because it's not b'shuso. That seems to be the psak over here. So we're up to pardon? Huh?
It's not ownership.
It's not yet.
You have.
It's like an oath. Right.
But it's not ownership.
It's not really. Right. It's not. You could argue the ownership. The Gemara is debating the ownership, but it's certainly not in his possession right now. He didn't take it away. All right. So we'll pick it up here tomorrow from Tani Reb Tachlifa Bar Marava, right in the middle of the page here. We'll pick it up here tomorrow.
Says we don't take it away.
Yeah.
The case of the bed.
Right.
This is not saying you own it.
No, he's not saying so, but that's
saying you own it.
but it's some ownership. That's the whole right. Possession means it's in your reshus. We're defining possession as being in your reshus. Reshus means it's got to be in your possession. Well, it's even less. Even less. No, we're trying to say even if you have some ownership in it, does that allow you to be makdish it even if you didn't take it in your possession? So there seems to be it's not in your possession. It's not physically in your possession. But if they wouldn't take it away from you, you have some ownership, as we saw by the Kohen. If we would say, that's the Gemara on base, if we were to say that if the Kohen grabbed it, we wouldn't take it away from him, like we want to say in the Havmeh, that whoever, if the farm has it, the Kohen can't take it away without being proved. But if the Kohen grabbed it anyway, we seem to say that then Yisrael would have to bring proof. According to that svara, that if the Kohen grabbed it, he has some reshus in it, right? There's a suffix, if it's his or not. So he might have some ownership in it because it's a suffix. Think about it. The Kohen, if the Kohen grabbed it and it really is a Bechor, so he has ownership in it. That's the question. We're talking about whether it's a suffix of ownership. A suffix of ownership. He has some ownership in it. Rashi keeps saying that in Takva Kohen Mitzim Yarov, all this usher is that he has some Zechia in it. Like Rashi says, Isak Yesh the Kohen Sad Zechia Bo. He has some merit, some ownership in it. If that was the whole problem, how could he use it as the 10th one if the Kohen has some rights in it? Right, is more like rights. He has some rights. He has some ownership rights in it. That's a question of that.
Every Kohen has rights in it. How can every Kohen has rights in it? How can this Kohen say that he's more rights in it?
Yeah, we're talking about with this Kohen we grab it. You're right. If he would have said,
so he grabbed it, so he has more.
He would come to him nicely and say, listen, could you give it to me? I could say, no, I'll give it to my friend. I give it to my friend. He's a Kohen. I like him better. That you could do. But if the Kohen grabbed it, he has rights in it. As he, on behalf of all the Kohen, he has rights to take it. If it's really a Bechor, right? If it's really a Bechor or something, but we don't know that. That's the whole suffix over here. And does the being a suffix give the Kohen some rights in it? That's the issue here.
Yeah. Okay. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay. He has the ability to have a right. Two guys holding a talus, you have no idea.
Yeah, okay. So they're different, right?
The only issue there is possession.
Right.
Here, independent.
Right. It is right. Right.
Something is whether it's a part.
Right. The fact that two people are coming in holding the same talus gives him some rights also.
No, but if this is
he certainly the Reuben had owned half of it, halachically, right? So he also has some ownership rights in it. He's no worse off than the Kohen. There are differences between the Kohen and him, but there's some ownership here.